Okay, hello. Sneakers for Men. Essentially a uncool, on purpose, New Jack Swing tribute. If you'd like to look into New Jack Swing, you could consider the works of Keith Sweat and New Edition, for instance. So, we start with the little scratch sample. All the scratching in here is Yamaha CS1X. One shot that it comes with the keyboard, so the idea behind the scratching is that it is actually sampled scratching, as opposed to really using normal scratching. There's just something about the statement of using a kind of fake version of what you're trying to achieve on purpose that I enjoy. Sneakers for Men, the song title came from me scouring Amazon product categories for any kind of title. The original title was Urban Techno, which was kind of an attempt at being incredibly uncool with an uncool song title. But I came across Sneakers for Men because it had this kind of sense of a metropolitan kind of skipping down the streets. It has a certain sort of up-tempo vibe that feels like walking with a skip to me. And also there's a bit of a interplay between the idea of sneakers for men and high heels. And this curious question that sneakers are generally for men, and the idea that you would interpolate sneakers as sneakers for men is kind of funny. All shoes are good on everyone. Let's all agree. Right, moving right along. The initial ideas for the song came from this little doohickey called Chord Space, which is a free MIDI generated keyboard. These look like they're arranged in a pretty strange way, but these are the Roman chord numbers, and it is, I think, around jazz theory, around tetrachords, 4-note chords. So you've got each Roman numeral chord and its substitutions. For example, for chord 5, and I'm slightly out of my depth here, you have B7 and you also have F minor, which are apparently the chord substitutions for chord 5 in any key. So, although in this key it would be flat. The actual key ended up being more like A flat major, but anyway, as soon as you hear this stuff, you'll hear how this came out. So I would just sort of lay down a tempo track and just tap. And as you can see, there are different results for different chords, but it is a nice way of laying out chords when you don't understand chord theory from a sort of pianist perspective rather than more of a sort of geometrical perspective. It's a free plugin that I think only runs in 32-bit Windows, hence why I'm still running in 32-bit Windows, but one of those little sort of machine-assisted type MIDI generators that I've used a lot on a lot of records, in addition to a few others. But yeah, this kind of like interrupting a kind of keyboard workflow with a strange diagram. So we have a New Jack Swing beat, we have an intentionally uncool set of sounds. We're trying to be uncool on purpose, but sort of being lighthearted and sincere about it at the same time. Hence we've got this upright bass, which sounds quote unquote cool to me. The original song was laid up against a breakbeat, which I'll unmute in a second when it comes up. So this breakbeat is not included in the stems because I don't know whether it's my intellectual property or not. I don't know where it came from. It was on a breakbeat pack that I got off the early internet. So here we are. Anyway, the idea is that we're using breakbeat architecture and a kind of a looped recording as a kind of basis for the rhythms, and then writing something else with one shots later. So the idea is that this is an audio clip. We can scrub it, but these ones are sort of the same idea of the beat, but just done with one shots. So this is the drum sampler. And as always, using the hi-hat to kind of push the rhythm at the end of the bars with this kind of broken up hi-hat. We'll mute the breakbeat again because that's no longer relevant. Now there's two types of transition things I would like to show y'all, and that would be this one, Sweet Tines, which is like an electric piano. It sounds more like a harp. As that's panning left to right, that's actually going through, if I'm not wrong, it's going into a reverb send, which is panning off in the opposite direction. So this other line of automation down here is actually the effects send for this transition. And I would have moved it in there if later on, you know, working on later records, I would have put that right next to it up here, but we'll keep it where it was just for wholeness' sake. So anyway, the tine gliss runs from the left channel to the right channel, but the reverb send runs from the right to the left. So you have this kind of rotating effect where the sound moves into one ear and then the after sound moves into the other ear, which you don't really hear in the mix, and I've made it sort of not obvious and not direct with the exact timing of the sort of delayed out. Anytime it moves semi-opposite, but just not being too rigid about not trying to show off. I'm just trying to make space with this. The other transition element that we can have a look at is the preverbs. So it's this audio track here. So that's just the sets of bells, the first note of the sets of bells being sort of this A sharp and this A sharp. They'll run through reverb, a single note hit, and then that's reversed so that you have a reverse echo. And hello to the cars honking outside in beautiful dusky Kowloon. Okay. So you've got this build of energy where it sort of feels like this thing's coming out of nowhere and then slams on that first note dry. So it's sort of a wetness kind of echo that comes back to like, bam, you're on this melody. And this kind of uncool thing, this whole melody section is just kind of painting by numbers. We're just trying to be, just trying to go with it here. Nothing too engaging. And then there's that glissando from the Sweet Tines. This whole section's about giving the listener a bit of space before the more complicated bits happen. Same reverb. I like how this tune just kind of rolls along. It doesn't sort of surprise the listener yet. There's nothing too mega about any of the sections. There's quite a nice little pairing of bell sounds between the left and right channels. I will always do this. If I make a sort of bell sound, I'll duplicate. I'm pretty sure this water bell's left was duplicated to make Harmo bell on the right. So you basically duplicate the track, change the preset, change the patch, and then pan them left and right. So you get a kind of wide sound. But that's all kind of background detail. We let everything just be driven by the chord progression and the main melodies. Nothing too flashy. In terms of a key, I think it's an A flat major-ish, but there are a lot of minor chords. But what I don't ever really do is minor key music, and that's kind of capital S sad. It ends up being more kind of opulent and rich rather than sort of sad. It's a funny dichotomy between major happy, minor sad. I don't really prescribe to it. I've always sort of written in modes and stuff, so I always tend to sort of go halfway between on a minor key. But this kind of, yeah, C minor 7, D minor 7, C, G minor 7, A flat major 7. So you're hitting the major on the last chord, and this one is just a pretty sure it's just an inversion of this first section. This is the same chord progression, but the notes have just been moved around a bit. Yeah, something like that. So what I would do, and I still do a lot, is take a chord progression that sort of runs. This kind of goes down then up. Just keep inverting it till it's a climb, and you get little weird intervals that you've got to deal with, but you get the idea. What else can we say about this fun little tune? Left and right, offbeats. Always go to the offbeats. It's something I always do, that I sort of a bit it's a little bit eyeliner being eyeliner. These are bust out hard left and hard right into a track called wide E piano, and then we thin up the track using the allocation left and right buses. So it goes in hard left, hard right, and then the group track is used to set the wideness of that bus. It's much easier than trying to dial in something goes left 40, right 40, left 60, right 60. You just go hard left, hard right, and then you use another group channel to change the width of it afterwards. Try to find this. There's this one bass note that I really like that I haven't done much else. Here it is. Nope, it's not that bar, it's bar 14, yes, this. We had this little 1/16, is it even a 16th, is it a 32th? This tiny stutter note that I've only just realized I'm doing that quite on purpose, that it crashes again. To sort of double accent the one. I really like that, and I'll be using that again on future records. So thank you, National Libraries, for making me look. Because yeah, it felt a bit too smooth. There wasn't enough skip in that in this part, but with this kind of double slam, makes it a bit more unpredictable. But not too unpredictable. Alright. We can look at the ending now. These little percussion bits, if I see a space, I'll chuck something in there and try to be as sort of fun-loving as I can. It's got the weird little side stick, wherever that is. Rototoms, love rototoms. There's a side stick in the actual main percussion track here. typical kind of ending where we let it sort of fall apart, just mute sections, mark off time slowly with the kick drum, little rototoms, little transition effect, then this bell. Now that bell at the end is for Daft Punk's Aerodynamic. I realized when this bell from this Omnisphere patch, very quiet in the mix, very quiet in velocity until the end, I think. We just have to just have a little zoomy looky. Yeah, it doesn't really start kicking in until the last few bars of the whole piece. I just noticed that when it had this last chord, it sounded a lot like the end of Aerodynamic by Daft Punk, and I was like, leave that one in. That's a good song. The loose sections at the end, there are a lot of ideas here. Hopefully they'll be in the right tempo map. Starting on the right bars. Yep, we're looking okay. If I'm off time, the shuffle won't work and it'll sound completely discombobulated. So this is slow offbeats. This is too slow. Then this. So, typical eyeliner stuff. You get the chord progression, you arpeggiate it. I like the two sections of these two chords. This could have been a little middle late in there, but I felt like the tune was sort of busy enough, or it sort of needed to roll along on its own steam without being that interrupted. This one is coming up, but we'll. I think this is the working section for that middle eight type part. There's the double note, but it hasn't made it onto the slap bass, which is this track below. Yeah, this is me just trying to work out that climb. And what do we land to? Yeah, this is a more questioning type version of that bell sound. Too questioning, too like, what are you doing? And this is, I think I was trying to figure out the melody that was coming. If we can figure out. Yeah, that became this section, this part. This dum 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 would just started out as being a kind of sort of phantom. Now where were we? This part. So that whole section that I played previously that made it into the song started with this kind of question and answer. It's more of an answer on its own. It's an answer without a question. This would have been figuring out that second section. Yeah. Trying variations on. Trying to take this one part that loops and building another section onto it. Didn't work. And I believe this is the first part, was this walking bass line. So it may have been the case that I came up with this walking bass line type thing, and then I grabbed a key, the implied musical key from this bass line into Chord Space, and then made the chord structure. That's basically Sneakers for Men. Oh, additional trivia. There is a vaporwave artist called Haircuts for Men that I didn't know about, and if I knew about them, I would have not used it as a song because it is too close to their work. Um, but here we are. So sorry if I missed you. Um, Sneakers for Men.